Okay, I will now demonstrate Lab 3, which is Advanced Functions. In Blackboard, click on the My Courses tab, which should take you to the listing of your Spring 2014 courses. Click on the Intro Electronic Spreadsheets. It should take you to the home page. Your assignments are listed in the assignment link on your Blackboard menu here on the left-hand side of your screen. So click on the assignment link, and we're going to now do Lab 3. The instructions are to download the attached Excel Lab 3 instructions and family budget files and save them to the computer you're using. You can watch this video posted in the lab on your Blackboard menu, your lab videos link. You can perform the lab as you watch the video, or watch the entire video and then perform the lab. Excuse me. So I'm going to click on my Excel Lab 3 instructions file. I'm going to go ahead and save it to my desktop. So I want to do a save as. I'm putting it to the desktop of the computer I'm using so that there again, it's on the desktop and I can find it easily. You can put it wherever you want. Just make sure you know where you're putting it so you can access it. And I've already got it there, so I have to replace it. And then I need to download the family budget file, which is the work file we're going to be using. I'm going to then again save as, so I can save it to my desktop and I can find it very easily. I'll minimize all of my screens so that I can get to my desktop, and I have now on the desktop my Excel Lab 3 instructions and the family budget file, which is the file that we will be working with in this lab. I will now open the instructions file. I'm not going to do anything to this file, but I'm going to go ahead and enable editing, but we shouldn't be making any changes to the instructions file. So first we need to open the family budget file and that we downloaded from Blackboard, and we're going to save it using a new name. It's going to be family budget _ your first and last name. So I will minimize my Word document instruction file. I will now open the family budget file that's on my desktop that I downloaded, and I will immediately do a file save as, and there again I'm going to save it to the desktop again, and it should be family budget _ your first and last name. Okay, the next step is in the budget sheet, enter the text January in cell B5. I'll bring up my Excel. Click in cell B5, and let me get it a little bit larger, and type in the text January. We're going to use the fill handle on B5 and fill the range C5 to M5 with the series of months names, and then we're going to center the months. So I'll bring up my Excel spreadsheet. I go back to cell B5, the bottom right corner where you have the little square that's sitting there all by itself. We're going to get the fill handle, so position your pointer right over that little black square. Make sure it changes to a black plus sign with no arrows. Left click, hold that mouse button down, and drag it all the way. Uh-oh, I lost it. Sorry, I clicked too much. Let me escape that out. Let me go all the way back. Okay, January. Hit enter to get it in the cell. Take the fill handle, left click, and drag all the way to column M, and you can see through the screen tip here as I'm dragging it, the months appear and we fill in the months names. We are also to center the month labels in the cell, so while the entire range B5 to M5 is still selected, on your home tab in the alignment group, go ahead and click the center button to center it in the cells. Okay, the instruction file, use wrap text for cell A27 so that the text appears on 2 lines. I'll bring up my Excel spreadsheet. A27 has a label which is text in it, and it's running over into the next cell. We've already seen how we can auto fit a column to make it larger, or In this case, we're going to do the wrap text. So on the Home tab in the Alignment group, you have a button called Wrap Text. If you click on it, it will wrap the text and make it into 2 lines. Enter a formula or a function that will calculate the running total values for cell range C25 to M25. Now, running total are values that are a cumulative amount of savings for each month. We will have to use what we call absolute cell reference in order for the function to work. So I'll bring up my work file, family budget. In cell C25, what a running total is for the end of February, I want to know what my total net income is. In January, my net income is a negative 1,000 because obviously someone here is going to college because you have an expense of tuition and books. So that really hurt. Your net income is your total income minus your total expenses. So whatever money you make minus everything you have to pay for is your net income. So a running total is, I want to know by the end of the year, say December, how much money have I saved. So in C25, the value should be the total of January and February's net income. Then in the next cell, D25 should be the total of January, February, and March. E should be the total January, February, March, April. So a running total is each time, each one of these cells should be adding all of the net income from January on up to that point. So you know your net savings throughout the entire year. This is your net income. This is just January's net income. This is just February. This cell is just March. We want to know a running total. So the easiest thing to do is in cell C25 is to use a summation function. So in C25, I'm going to make that my active cell. On my Home tab in my editing group, I'm going to click on the Auto Sum button. Notice when the screen tip comes up, it says Sum, so we just want to add 2 values. Well, we want to add the January and February net income. Well, the system is guessing wrong. It's confused. It only sees that one value, so we have to tell it what values we want added because it's guessing wrong. So all you do is we want the range B24 to C24 added together. So what you have to do if it guesses wrong as far as the range you want added, you just select the range. So there again on B24, I'm going to select it, so I have to make sure my pointer is that white plus sign or white arrow. I'm going to left click and I'm going to drag across to C24. So that's the range that I want. I selected it. It's picking up the range that I want. And you can see here in the formula bar, B24 colon C24, so I just hit enter. Now the problem is, if I, excuse me, now I'll go to cell C25 and take that fill handle and fill it across. Well, it did a relative copy. So in cell D24, it's just adding C24 and D24, which is February and March. I want January, February, March. Same with the next cell over. It's just adding D and E. So what the problem is when we did a relative, it keeps changing the columns relative to the original. So where we have B and C, the next cell was C and D. The next one is D and E. We need the cell B24 in this formula to always stay constant. We don't want it to change. So we want this B24, which is January, to always stay B24. This formula needs to be B24 to D24. This needs to be B24 to E. So how you do that is you make an absolute reference to that cell. And to make it absolute reference is you'll put a $sign in front of the B and a $sign in front of the 24. And that says do not change that B and do not change that 24. How you do that is make sure C25 is your active cell. In your formula bar, position the I-beam right over the B24 cell reference. When you position that I-beam over there, just double click. It selects the cell reference B24. Now on your keyboard, you should have an F4 key. Press your F4 key and it should put in a $ in front of the B and a $ in front of the 24. Now if it doesn't, you can type it in. You can type in, just change typing it or hit the F4 key on your keyboard. Now to enter this, I can, if you mess up, here on your formula bar you have an X, a red X, that means cancel. It'll just go back to the original. Let me go ahead and put it back. Or the check mark is the same as the enter. So whether I hit the enter key or click on this check mark, it will enter it into the cell. Oop, I messed up. Sorry, I lost my my parentheses. I took it out accidentally. So $ in front of the B, $ in front of the 24. Click the check mark to enter it into the cell. Now, this value in December, this 1400 here, should be all of these added together. And I guarantee you it should be around $6,000. So what you need to do is you need to take out a calculator and spot check some of these formulas to make sure you're getting them right. I'm now going to take the fill handle on C25 since I corrected the formula, and now fill it across to column M, and I'll click anywhere out here to deselect it. And this should be all three of these added together. The end of April should be all four values from January, February, March, and April added together. And I would take a calculator out and spot check it, but I know that's right. So that's called absolute reference. Absolute reference is in this particular formula. Do not change that cell reference. Do not change the B or the row or the column. Okay. Looks like we're going to do some fancy formatting here. Number 5, we're going to apply a thick bottom border to the ranges B7 to M7 and B21 to M21. So I'm now going to select the range B7 to M7. And what we're going to do is just like when you do a math class, like in 3rd grade, you learned that 1, you'd put in a 1 on your paper, then put a plus sign and put a 3 underneath it, and then you draw an underscore under that 3 and put the answer. This is the same as what we're doing here. We're putting a border so that we can see that these are 2 added values. So up on your Home tab, in the font group, on the 2nd row, you have a button in there. When you point to it, you put your pointer on it, it should come up and say some kind of a border. Drop down that arrow, and in that list find a thick bottom border, not the box, thick bottom border, and click. Now click anywhere outside on any open white cell, and you will see it's just an underscore like when you're doing math. We need to do the same to the range B21 to M21. Drop it down. Go to your thick bottom border. Okay? In step 6, apply the total cell style to the range B22 to M22. So there again, we're just formatting it, making it look nice. So I'm going to select the range B22 to M22, and on the Home tab in the Styles group, you have an arrow that will take you up and down and show you different styles, or you have this one button that's called the More button. It's an arrow pointing down with a line over it. When you point to it, the screen tip comes up and says More button. It will show you all the styles you can pick from. And so for this range, B22 to M22, we want the total style. And what it does is an underscore, then a double underline. So click on that total style there, and you can see what it does. It does a double underline underneath it. So that's kind of like your bottom line figure. The next instruction, 7, in cell B30, enter a formula or a function to calculate Amanda's total income. Excuse me. Okay, so in cell B30, I'm in cell B30, the B's highlighted in the 30. I can see in the cell, the name box, it's B30. I need a formula or a function to represent Amanda's total income. Amanda's total income would be adding up all of her income made January through December. So it's actually the range B6 to M6. So I'm going to use the sum function. So on the Home tab, in the Editing group, here's my Auto Sum button. It defaults to sum, so I can just click the larger part of the button and it will automatically put in the sum, or if not, you can click the drop down arrow and hit the sum. So Auto Sum, it comes in here and it's guessing wrong. The range that I need is way up here at the top, and you may have to scroll up in your worksheet to see it. But I need to select the range B6 to M6. So I'm going to point or move my pointer right over cell B6 so that it's the plus sign or the white cross. Left click, hold my mouse button down and drag across to M6. So if you look down here in the formula, whether you look in the formula bar or in the formula itself, B6 to M6, and then hit enter. Number 8, we're going to, in cell C30, enter a formula function to calculate Amanda's average income. I'll bring up my worksheet. So in cell C30, now I showed you this Auto Sum button. So on your Home tab in the Editing group, if you click the drop down arrow on the Auto Sum, there's an average function, there's count numbers, there's a max and the min. So we're going to use the average function here, and it's going to give us the average salary. So click average. Now we need the average of Amanda's income. It's guessing wrong here. Amanda's income is, there again, that range B6 to M6. So go ahead and select that same range again, B6 to M6, hit enter. And what we need to do here is select the range B30 to C30 and fill the formulas down one row. And when we do this, it will automatically calculate Joseph's total and average income. So going back to Excel, and when we do this fill handle, we're going to use the fill handle, but we can do it on more than one cell. We're going to select the range D30, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong number, B30 to C30. And when I do that, you have one fill handle, even though you have two cells selected. Point your pointer to that bottom right corner of the fill handle. Hold that left mouse button down and just drag down to Joseph. And his total and average is already completed. Okay, in cell D30, we're going to enter a formula or function to calculate Amanda's minimum income. And the whole purpose of this is just learning the different functions that's in there. You know, minimum, maximum down here may not serve a purpose, but the purpose is to learn the various functions that exist in spreadsheets. So D30, I saw that on the Home tab in the Editing group. When I dropped down my Auto Sum arrow, that there happened to be a min function, and that's what the minimum does. It finds the minimum value in a series of numbers, and it's guessing wrong. It's trying to guess this range. We want, there again, the minimum of Amanda's income. So we will now go up here and select the same range again, B6 to M6, and hit enter. And the next instruction is we want to now in E30 use a formula function to calculate Amanda's maximum income. I'll bring up my worksheet. I will now go to E30. I will, on the Home tab in the Editing group, click the drop down Auto Sum arrow And this time we want the max, so I'm going to use the max function. So select max. It's guessing the wrong range, so I'll have to scroll up and find Amanda's income for the whole year. It's represented by the cells B6 to M6 and hit enter. And here we're going to do the same thing again. In order to get Joseph's, we're going to select, to get Joseph's minimum maximum, we're going to select the range D30 to E30. We're going to take that fill handle and fill it down one row. Now instead of doing 2 at a time, I could have easily selected or filled, you know, put the calculations in for the total, average, min, and max, all for Amanda, and then did all, and take the fill handle and do all 4 at one time. I was just taking baby steps and letting you do 2 at a time, but you could do all 4. Okay. And number 12, in cell B35, enter formula function to calculate the total rent. No, I'm sorry, we're on 11. Whew. Okay, B32, C32, D32, and E32. Enter formula function to calculate Amanda and Joseph's total income, total average income, total min, and total max. Okay, I'll bring up my spreadsheet. And in cell B32, I want the total of the total income. I'm going to want the total average, total min, and total max. So in B32, I'm going to use, I could use the summation function, or I can just do a formula. We haven't done a formula in a while, so since we're just adding 2 values, I'm going to go ahead and just use a formula and type it in. So all formulas and functions start with equal sign. I type in equal sign. I'm going to click on the first cell that I want added, which is B30. I'm going to type in a plus sign. I'm going to click on the second cell that I want added, which is B31, and hit my enter key. And now since we have the total there, again, the instructions wanted the total average, total min, total max. So we're just going to take the fill handle on cell B32. So point to the little square at the bottom right corner. Make sure your pointer changes to a black plus sign. Left click, hold the mouse button down, and drag across. Okay, now we're going to go to the rent. So in cell B35, enter a formula or function to calculate the total rent for the year. Excuse me, B35. I'm going to use the summation function. So I'll click on auto sum. It's guessing wrong, but I need rent. So scroll up if you need to and find the values that represent the rent for all 12 months. And that would be the range B11 to M11. So select the range B11 to M11. Hit your enter key. Now we want a formula or function to calculate the average rent. I'm going to bring up Excel. In cell C35, on the Home tab in the Editing group, I'm going to click the drop down arrow on the Auto Sum button and go to Average. I need the average rent. So now let's select the range that represents rent for 12 months, which is B11 to M11. Hit Enter. And without going to the instructions, we're also going to need the minimum rent. So make sure you're in cell D35. On the Auto Sum button, drop down the arrow and go select the min function and go select the range B11 to M11 that represents a rent for 12 months. Hit Enter. We're going to do the same for the max. So in cell E35, use the drop down arrow on your Auto Sum button, select max function, scroll up and select the range that represents the rent for 12 months, which would be B11 to M11, and hit Enter. Okay, so now what we can do, since we have all 4 formulas, we can select all 4 of these cells and fill them down. So select the range B35 to E35 and find the fill handle. There's only one fill handle, even though you have 4 cells selected. Position your pointer over the fill handle, the little square, it changes to the black plus sign, and hold that left mouse button down, and oop, I jumped too fast. Drag it all the way down to row 45 and let go, and all of those values are automatically filled in. Okay, so we've jumped way up here and we are now on step number 17. In cell B48, C48, D48, and E48, do the total, calculate the total net income, total average, total max, and total min. No, I'm sorry, we're on 16. We need a total expenses for all 4 of those. So B46, I'll bring up Excel. B46, we want to total up all the total expenses, total average expenses, total min. So on the home tab in the editing group, I'm going to click the auto sum button. It's guessing the wrong range. So what you're going to have to do is, to fix what it's guessing, is select the range that you wanted. The range that we want is all the expenses. That's represented by B35 to B45, and hit enter. Now with the total in cell B46, we can take the fill handle on cell B46 and copy it across to the average, min, and max. My mouse is not working good today. Let me do it again. I don't know what it's doing. Okay. Okay. Summation, select, enter, take the fill handle, and go across. Okay, now we need to, in cell B48, C, D, and E, we need to calculate the net income, total average net income. So in the spreadsheet, your net income is equal to your total income minus your total expenses. So we're just going to do a formula. Type in equal sign. Click on the cell that represents the total income, which is B32. Type in a minus sign. And click on the cell that represents the total expenses, which would be B46. Hit your enter key. And now we can take the fill handle on cell B48 and fill it across to calculate the average, min, and max. So the purpose of this worksheet is, we have 2 people, Amanda and Joseph. They have calculated their total income and total expenses for an entire year. Currently, right now, their expenses, they rent. They want to buy a house. So what we're now going to do is do calculations to suggest how expensive of a house they can afford based on their income and their expenses. So we have the detail here, monthly totals, the detail of the whole year, and then down here we did our year-end summary. So we took their total, their average, their min, and the max. Now because they have tuition expenses in January, tuition expenses in August, we can't just randomly take one month and assume that's the average. So because of all the expenses as tuitions and books, and then they have none there, if we take the average down here of the whole year, then we can do an analysis on how expensive of a house they can afford. So now we are on step 18, and in order to do this, we're going to copy and paste the average values, that's in cell range C30 to C45, from the budget sheet, and we're going to paste it into cell B4 in the loan analysis sheet. So in Excel, I'm going to select the range C30 to C45. That's just their average and their expenses. And I'm going to copy it, and you can, excuse me, to copy on the home tab in the clipboard, clipboard group, you can click on the copy button. You can right click anywhere in that highlighted section and click copy, or you can hold your control key down and hit the C key on your keyboard. So whichever method you want. I'm going to do a copy up here. Now you notice how it has a rotating border around it to show that it's copied. And we're going to have to paste it in the loan analysis worksheet. So down here at the bottom left corner of your screen, click on the loan analysis tab, and we're going to paste it starting in cell B4. You do not have to select the entire range that you're going to paste it in. All you have to do is select the first cell that you want those values to come into. Now I'm going to mess this up first and show you. If I do a straightforward paste, if I just click the paste button, I just get a reference error. I have to do a paste special. I need to paste, and that's what it's telling you here. We need to paste, do a paste special, and paste just the values in the number formats. Okay? So with this selected, what you have to do is, on the Home tab in the Clipboard group, click the Paste drop-down arrow. The last option there says Paste Special. And in the first section where it says Paste, select the very last option that says Values and Number Formats, and then click OK. And the values from the other worksheet, oh, I don't want to do that. It's about to expire me. From the other worksheet comes in. Okay, number 19 in the loan analysis sheet in B6, enter formula or function to calculate the total income. So in B6, when we pasted the value here, we lost the calculation. We lost the formula. So we need to put the formula back in, because if anything up here would change without that formula, the value wouldn't change here for the total. So I'm just going to do a formula this time. I'm going to type in equal sign. I want to click on the first cell that I want added, which is B4. I'm going to type in a plus sign. I will now select the second cell that I want added, which is Joseph's income, which is represented by B5, and hit enter. Then on number 20 in B20, in cell B20, we want to enter a formula function to calculate the total expenses. So I'm in B20, and I'm not going to do a formula. If I did a formula like I did up here in B6, I'd be having to type in equals and click on this cell, click a plus sign, click on this cell, click a plus sign. There's too many values here. For just two cells, I don't mind typing in a formula. But I have that sum function, and I've got a lot of cells here to add up. So I'm going to use the sum function. So on the Home tab in the Editing group, I'm going to click on the Auto Sum button. It's highlighting exactly what I need, so I did a good guess. So all I have to do is hit enter. And now on number 21 in cell B22, we need to do a formula function to calculate the net income. And as previously we said, the net income is your total income minus your total expenses. So I'm just going to do a formula. Type in equal sign. I'm going to click on the cell that represents total income, which would be B6. I'm going to type in a minus sign. I'm now going to click on the cell that represents total expenses, which is B20, and hit enter. Okay, now in the loan analysis sheet in cell E10, we want to enter a formula function to calculate the total number of payments. We're going to calculate a payment based on a house that they're looking at right now. Under loan conditions, right now they're looking at a house that's $150,000. They went to the bank, and the bank said, okay, we'll give you a 30-year loan at an annual interest rate of 4.5. Now, under the payment conditions, they want to pay monthly, which means they're going to have 12 payments a year. The formula that we're going to use in Excel requires that you must know how many total payments are going to be. Now I'm going to show you how to calculate that ahead of time, but I'm also going to show you when we do the function that if you haven't done it, you still can use the function. So your total payments is going to be the length of your loan, which is the 30 years, times how many payments you're making a year. Excuse me. So in cell E10, we're going to enter a formula. You're going to manually type it in. So all formulas and functions start with an equal sign. So type in equal sign. Now go select E5 5, which represents the length of the year, which is 30 years. Type in an asterisk, which represents multiplication, and then click on cell E9, which represents how many payments you're making a year. Hit your enter key, and if you have a 30-year loan, you're making 12 payments per year, you're going to have 360 payments. Okay, and number 23. In cell E11, we need to calculate the payment of the house that they're looking at right now. So we're going to use the payment function. Okay, so in cell E11, if I do not know, we had all these functions built here in the auto sum, average. There's no payment function there. So we're going to have to search for this function. The easiest way is up here on your formula bar, you have this f of x. When you point to it, the screen tip says insert function. Click on that, and we have a search bar. So let's just search for a loan payment. Just type in your search text. Let me take my caps off. Loan payment. And click go. First one comes up is PMT. Down here is the description of it. Let's read it and see if this is what we want. It calculates a payment for a loan based on constant payments. That's right. 12, once every month, and a constant interest rate. We have the constant interest rate, so that's exactly what we want. So click OK. And now we have it says function arguments, and what an argument is data. We have to fill in the blanks for it to do the calculation. So this first rate box, read the bottom, and what's it asking? It wants the interest rate per period for the loan. Now we have the interest rate, the annual interest rate, the yearly interest rate, not the per period one. It needs the interest rate per month. We're making monthly payments. So you'll see it says here, for example, use 6% divided by 4 for quarterly payments. If the APR, annual percentage rate, is what you have, well, that's what we have. So what we have to do here is we're going to have to take that 4.5% divided by 12. In order to get the monthly payment, we've got the annual interest rate, which is 4.50. So click on that cell to select it. Then type in a / for division. And whether you type in a 12 here or just click on the 12 over here, but this is the annual interest rate. We're going to be paying monthly, once every 12 months, so we have to divide it by 12. Click in the next box that it wants, the IMPER. The IMPER is the total number of payments for the loan. That's why I had you in cell E10 go ahead and calculate the total payments. If you didn't do that, you could actually put the calculation right in here. Now notice when it did this calculation here that the monthly interest rate is 0.00375. The number of payments for the loan, there again, you can just click on cell E10 because we already calculated it, or we could have put the calculation in here. We could have easily clicked on the 30, typed in an asterisk, and then clicked on the cell that has a 12 in it, which is the exact same formula that's in E10, and notice the 360 is there. So either method. And the PV is the present value, is the amount of the loan. The amount of the loan is in cell E4. So we've got all of our values in there. Click OK. And the monthly payment for a house, $150,000 house, with a 30-year loan with a 4.5 annual interest rate is $760. Now notice our house payment over here. In our previous budget sheet, it was rent. Now on our loan analysis sheet, it's a house payment. They were already paying $850 rent, so the house payment is actually cheaper. Now the instructions say that we need to make sure that the right here on 23, change the function to make sure the value in E11 is a positive value. So how we can do that is right up here in your payment function, and up here in your formula bar, click in the formula bar and put your cursor, your blinking bar, so it's positioned between the equal sign and the uppercase P in payment. Type in a minus sign, a hyphen, and now either hit the enter key or click the check mark to enter it, and it turns it into a positive value. Because we're going to have to apply that value over here in the house payment. If it's a negative, it's going to distort our total. It has to be a positive value. Okay, number 24, in the loan analysis sheet, in E15, or make E15 always refer to B22, and make B9 always refer to E11. So in our spreadsheet, this house payment has got to always be whatever's in cell E9. We always want it to be whatever's in that cell, because we're going to look at a $200,000 house, and we're going to look at a $175,000 house. So this is a lot of what if. So in order to make B9 always refer to E11, click in cell B9, type in equal sign, then click on cell E11 and hit enter. And the same thing here, our calculated savings. We want to always make E15 be whatever value is in cell B22. Your calculated savings is always whatever you have left over after you make all your money and you pay all your bills, your net income. Your calculated savings is whatever you have left over. So in cell E15, type in the equal sign, then click on cell B22 and hit enter. Okay, number 25. In the loan analysis sheet in E16, we're going to use a logical if function. And what we're going to do is put in, this cell is going to determine yes or no we can afford the house. The test we're going to do is if the calculated savings is greater than the required, then yes, we can afford a house. Otherwise, we can't afford it. So bring up your Excel spreadsheet. We're going to use a logical if. If you look at your ribbon up here, you have a tab called Formulas. And here is the exact same button as this one here. Here we clicked on Insert a Function and we typed in a search for loan. This is the same button here. But you have, here's all your auto sum. Here's all your financial. You have tons and tons of financial. You have logicals. You have date and time functions. Math and trig, you probably go on for days with all the math functions. And then you have statistical functions. So there are hundreds and hundreds of functions in Excel. It's impossible to teach you all of these functions, but it's not impossible to teach you how to find them. And that's where you would have your f of x, and you do a search and type in what you want. Now, the instructions say it is a logical if that we need. So if I click here under the logical group, there's the if one, so we can just click on it there. So if you know where it's at, you can find it, or you can, there again, insert a function and do a search on it. So requirement here was that the logical test is if the calculated savings is more than the required. So how our logical test is if the calculated savings, so click on the calculated savings cell, it's represented by cell E15, then type in a greater than symbol, which would be a shift period key. So if the calculated is greater than the required, now click on the cell that represents the required savings, which is E14. Then if that's true, according to our directions, then we would need to say yes, they can afford the house. So I'm going to type in yes. Do a smiley face, but you don't have to do that. Otherwise, no, they cannot afford it. Let's do a frowny and click OK. So yes, they can afford the $150,000 house. Well, they're looking at a $200,000 house that has a swimming pool. So let's change the value in E4 to $200,000. And unfortunately, the conclusion is no, they can't afford it because there again, the calculated savings is not greater than the required. They also are looking at a $175,000 house that has an extra bedroom and maybe a carport. No, they can't afford it, but there's only a $4 difference. Let's say they have a friend that works at a bank, and the friend says, oh, I can get you a 4% annual interest rate. Well, let's look at that $175,000 house. Let's change that interest rate to 4, and yes, they can afford it now. So this is a lot of what-if analysis, and if you get the right formulas and the right cells, you can do a lot of calculations, a lot of what-ifs. Okay, so on number 26, in the budget sheet, we want to apply some conditional formatting to highlight cell rules for any value that's greater than 500, and then we want the in the cell range B11 to M11, and we want to apply a green color to it. Also in 27, we're going to do another conditional formatting of orange data bars in the cell range B11 to 21, M21. So basically what we're doing here is go back to your budget sheet, right, in the budget. We want to, in this case, when we do conditional formatting, our first requirement was highlight any cells that are greater than 500. So what Amanda and Joseph are doing is I want to highlight any values in my budget for my 12 months that are more than 500. I want to look at those and see if there's something I can do about them. What expenses do I have that's more than 500 a month? So we're going to select the range B11 to M21. On the Home tab, in the Styles group, you have a conditional formatting button. Click it. In this case, they want to highlight cell rules that are greater than. So select highlight cell rules. You have so many options. You can do greater than, less than, between, equal to. You can even compare text. But you want one greater than, and their condition was anything over 500. So type in 500. And width, they wanted green fill with dark green text, so select it. You could also go down to custom format, and you could on custom format change it to it froze. Change it to bold, change it to any color you want. So I mean, you can do anything you want there as far as what color. If you don't like what they give you, the red, the green, the yellow, you can come down here and customize it to anything you want. So click OK. By clicking any open white space, anything that they had an expense of over 500 is going to show up. Well, the rent they couldn't help. The food they probably could. 2 people spending $600 a month on food, that's probably a little ridiculous. They can start cooking and not eat out, save money there. The tuition, not much you can do. The books, 500. 20 and 572, maybe they could rent the books next time instead of buying them. So that's just a conditional formatting. The last step also wants us to do data bars right here. So it's the same range, which was B11 to M21, which is basically it's all your expense values. And this time we're going to do conditional formatting. So on the Home tab in the Styles group, click the conditional formatting, and we want to do data bars. If you notice here, you've got live preview. Live preview means what I'm doing here, it's showing up in the background in my spreadsheet so I can see what it's going to look like. They want orange gradient fill. Now gradient fill, you can see it just gradually starts getting lighter and dimmer. Where solid fill, it's a solid color. So we want orange gradient fill bars. If you click on it, what it does is just basically puts a chart, just our column charts like we did up here, within the cell. So you can see your biggest expense there by the chart is your tuition. Rent's the next biggest. Small amount of insurance there. So it basically just puts a chart in there. So let's go ahead now and save it and submit it. So I'll close my instructions. I don't need it anymore. I'm just on my quick access toolbar up here in Excel. I'm going to save the spreadsheet. If you get this compatibility error, the checker, just always click continue. Don't worry about it. So save it, close it. Now go into this course and find the lab assignment. This was lab 3. Click on the lab assignment name, advanced functions. Scroll down and find the assignment submission section. Click on Browse My Computer. I saved mine on the desktop, so I'm going to click the desktop and find, I called it Family Budget with my first and last name. Do not give me family budget. If you submit just the family budget, this is the original file you downloaded, I will not get any of your work. Make sure it's family budget with your name on it. You can either single click and click open or double click the file name, either method. Make sure in the assignment section under attached files you see the family budget with your name. Scroll down, hit your submit button, and if you have any problems, just contact me. Good luck.